Now this book spends a lot of time digging deeply into the history, and I think a lot of people have this conception that these sort of youthful sides of Christianity arose out of the turbulence of the 1960s, but you take it way back further than that and say it really began in the 1930s. Can you tell us about that?
In the 1930s and 1940s, I was amazed to find out that everywhere you looked, people were talking about the youth crisis and the crisis of civilization, that the Great Depression and then World War II and then the Cold War all seemed to involve young people. After all, Hitler was rising to power on the backs of the Hitler Youth. The communists had their own youth movements. It seemed like maybe young people in America would become communists or fascists, or maybe they would become juvenile delinquents. Somehow young people would destroy America if they weren't saved somehow. And this shaped a new era of youth ministries in America that began in the 1930s and 1940s. Churches of all kinds and people of all kinds started founding new ministries and new organizations to help young people. And in the midst of that, one of the things that I saw is that they were willing to try anything to save young people. They weren't too worried about what effects might this have in the long term on the church.
And then you spend a lot of time talking not about the 60s, but the 1950s, a time when we normally think of, of religion being a dominant force in culture, everything's fine, nothing to see here, kind of, in the 50s. Why is this so crucial in the process?
The 1950s was the time that American Christians came up with several ways to deal with youth and youth culture. The 1950s, first of all, was the first time that the United States truly had a national youth culture. And so that was new. Christians of all types were responding to that. What are we going to do with young people? How are we going to help them accept the Christian faith, be strong Christians? Each type of Christian group had different goals for young people, but they all realized that this youth culture is presenting new challenges. Young people today are different. They want different things. They don't seem to be as eagerly embracing the things that we think they should. And so they devised many different strategies for reaching young people and helping them become the kind of Christians that the adults thought they should be. So as a result, that 1950s decade was a key time for creating patterns of relating to youth and youth culture that are still with us today.